And Harrison Ford is like, he's doing proper comedic acting, you know?
Like, it's like a really good feeling when people think that your character's fun or they want to hang out with your character. It doesn't get any better than that. So it was really nice.
It's funny, man. When you pitch streaming shows now, you got to pitch what they're about, which was not what I used to have to do early in my career.
I think that Alice is worried about me.
It's rough to realize your kid knows how fragile you are.
Paul, do not do that. How are you so strong? I'm not fragile.
Was there anything in coming back for season 2 that either in the writing of it or the performing or in the finished product that you think was particularly different this time around from season 1?
I think this season, well, a couple things happen. You know, when you're doing season 1, you're all figuring out the tone of the show. So you don't have the benefit of having a shared experience of seeing it and knowing what we're shooting for, you know? Season 2, we had seen the show, we saw what worked, and we also had this big gap because of the writer's strike. So I think everyone came in really hungry and like loaded to go out there and kill it. So you feel a real comedic energy. There's something electric going on, I think. And also one of the things I love about season 2 is you get to open up the world a little bit more, and each of these characters in the ensemble gets the lead character treatment, and you get to learn about their lives and have full realized arcs with all of them. And it's the best cast on TV as far as I'm concerned. And each of those characters could be the lead in their own show.
And obviously the reaction to season 1 was so positive. Was there anything in it that particularly, I suppose, surprised you? Anything that sort of you took into season 2? Like, I didn't expect that to take off, but people have really taken that into their hearts.
I think that for me, the odd couple relationship between Paul and Jimmy, how funny it is, how funny Harrison Ford is at kind of being irritable, but then also like being willing to take it for a spin. I think that that's what really shined through. There was some idea, I think, when we first conceived of the show and the character, that he would be sort of a stoic mentor that you would check in with every once in a while. And Harrison Ford is like, he's doing proper comedic acting, you know?
Yeah, I was so nervous. You know, I think going into the first season, we didn't really, I didn't know necessarily what the show sounded like, obviously, because I hadn't seen it, what the characters were going to be like. So when I watched it with everybody else. And so when I finally saw the tone and everything, I was like, oh, this is great. And that was a personal relief. And then just getting so much feedback on the show and getting so much feedback on Gabby has felt really nice. Like, it's like a really good feeling when people think that your character's fun or they want to hang out with your character. It doesn't get any better than that. So it was really nice.
Honestly, the most exciting thing in my career. I've been banging around for a long time and, always sort of dreamt about being on a show. I've been on shows that have been successful, but I've never really been there from the very beginning. So it's so exciting to be a part of something like this. And I remember when I read the script, the very first script, I said, this is the best script I've ever read. It's the best half hour I've ever read. And it made me very happy because I turned out to be right.
I was so glad. I feel like a lot of people came up to me and talked about getting into therapy or watching it with someone that was a friend of theirs, that they wanted that friend to get into therapy, and that it kind of normalized that conversation. And therapy now is so accessible. You can Zoom, you can interview different people who you gel with, and that made me happy.
And what was it like coming back for season 2? Was the dynamic different on set? How had things changed from season 1?
Well, we had that big break because of the writer's strike. We were supposed to go back to work that summer, so everyone was ready, and then it was like this big break, and everyone was dying to get back to work. We had it was very exciting, and it felt like everyone started day one just like A game. Was really felt exciting on set, and I hope you like season 2 because we're so proud of it.
Where is Liz at the start of this season? Where do we find her?
I think she thinks she's like heading towards a purpose and starting her food truck with Sean and seeing how that'll play out, and it doesn't quite work out, and then Liz makes a series of poor choices.
And how is her relationship with Sean developing, I suppose? Because that was a lovely storyline which we saw really come into force at the end of season 1, wasn't it?
Yeah, it does develop, and then we do get in a bit of a fight.
So at the end of season 1, Gabby realizes, she applies for a professorship. She realizes she has feelings for Jimmy, and they're still just kind of being friends with benefits. So we don't know how Jimmy feels. So then it cut to the beginning of season 2. Gabby's fully in her professorship that she's doing, and she has got a new house that she hasn't unpacked yet, kind of a mess, and also she's still sleeping with Jimmy and trying to figure out how she feels about him. So Gabby's got quite a bit going on. She's also still working at the practice and still driving Paul to work and still kind of trying to make sure Paul's being healthy. So she's got quite a bit going on.
What can you tell us about the arc for this season? Not just for Gabby, but for the show as a whole and all of the characters, I suppose.
Yeah, this season on Shrinking is about forgiveness mainly, and so you're going to see a lot of scenarios where the characters are really struggling to forgive or trying to forgive each other, things from their past. They're trying to forgive. I don't know why I said it like that, but they're trying to forgive each other and things from their past. Period. There's nothing else I can think of that they're trying to forgive. But I think that's like the main point of this season. And also they're still like in grief. Like, Jimmy and Alice, even Gabby, they're not over losing Tia, who is Jimmy's wife. Like, they're still processing grief. And it's still just got all of that delightful comedy, drama, messiness that we had from the first season. We just kind of know the characters more, and we know how everybody sounds, so we get to have a lot of fun and play with it a bit more.
We find Jimmy immediately after this incident and him having to clear up the wreckage of the past and deal with the consequences of doing all of this unconventional therapy. We wanted to be really honest about that. If you're trying to break the rules, there's going to be consequences to that. And so, yeah, it's Jimmy clearing up the wreckage of his past.
And how's he feeling about this sort of unconventional therapy throughout this season? Is that going to sort of show up again, or is he sort of putting that back in his box?
It's the big push and pull of this season. Are the broken eggs worth the successes? And Paul has an opinion on that. Jimmy has an opinion on that, and even Alice has an opinion on it because she says to him at one point, like, "You got better from doing that new therapy. Like, it brought something back in you. Don't forget that." So yeah, he's being pulled in a lot of different directions.
At the start of the season, he's now a happily married man. We saw him get married to Charlie at the end of season 1, and at the beginning of season 2, he's helping Jimmy with his patient, who pushed her boyfriend off a cliff at the end of season 1. So he gets to play lawyer again. This is one of my favorite colors on Brian. He's just an estate lawyer, so he deals with wills and trusts. But every once in a while, he gets to put on his pretend criminal law hat, and so we get a little bit of that. But the big thing in the first part of season 1 is that Jimmy has been keeping his affair with Gabby from Brian, and Brian accidentally finds out, and he's furious. He doesn't understand why Jimmy would keep a secret that big from him, and it starts him on a bit of an existential spiral about their friendship and about whether or not they even should be friends. And something that I'm really proud of is that the writers came up with this really very authentic problem that people who have come out of the closet have, and I can relate. When you're in the closet, you're not your whole self, and Jimmy and Brian became best friends when Brian was living the life of a straight person, and then their friendship bridged the gap of coming out, survived coming out of the closet, and now many years later, Brian is wondering if they would even be friends now if they met today. As a gay man and a straight man, would we even become friends? And I think that's a really interesting and real problem that we haven't really seen explored on television. And so that's something I'm very proud of and excited about for people to see.
And coming back for season 2, what was different this time, either on set or in the execution? Is there anything that fans can expect to be a bit different in season 2?
Well, the characters all know each other a little better. So I think there's a quicker shorthand that I think you will find the comedy and drama come at you even faster. There's nothing, I wouldn't say there's any major changes. It's more that we're just all like a little bit closer. The show is really about, it's about a lot of things. It's about dealing with tragedy through comedy, but it's also about chosen family. And a lot of the characters, it's fun to think about, like a lot of the characters that we now love in season 2 didn't even know each other at the beginning of season 1. And I think it's really, really exciting to watch a chosen family be formed. And I'm really, this is one of those shows where you put any two characters together and magic happens. And I didn't get a whole lot to do last season 1 with Brian and Alice didn't really spend much time together. Brian and Sean, Brian and Derek didn't get to spend much time together. And we really get to play in those sandboxes more this season. I think the fans of the show will appreciate that.
And it seems like, having seen the first sort of few episodes of this season, like Derek's got some more to do this time around. Was that nice for you to get more involved? And what can you tease about what fans can expect from Derek this season?
Yeah, it was very exciting for me personally that Derek, they liked him enough to give him more to do, and which is nerve-wracking because Derek is kind of an assassin. He comes in and pops lines off, and because of the writing is so good that it's almost a cheat for Derek. So in season 2, you're going to see a lot more Derek, and now he's retired. So now he has time to be involved in everyone's life. And whether that's good or bad, we'll find out. But you see a lot about Derek and Liz, their relationship, and how their marriage works, their family. And you see that people begin to see Derek for who he really is, and that he's this calming force, even though he's a little kooky.
Yeah, it's certainly in the first couple of episodes, everyone's loving Derek. He seems like such a sort of lovely guy. Can we expect to find out more sides of him further down the line in the season?
Yeah, you definitely will. And you'll see a lot more depth in Derek. But the one thing you'll find is that he has there's a mystical quality to Derek that we're beginning to sort of unlayer, and you're starting to see he has this ability to let people know that it's going to be okay, and you will see that sort of throughout the season. And I don't really know where it came from, but it's funny. Personally, I've always played Derek as this piece of sunshine, a piece of light that comes into people's lives. And I have found that we all, as humans and animals, we're drawn toward the warmth and towards the light. And so that is my secret with playing Derek. And they are kind of riding towards it.
Well, look, man, I've been talking about it a little the second season. It's funny, man. When you pitch streaming shows now, you got to pitch what they're about, which was not what I used to have to do early in my career. And we said the first year of this show was about grief, and the second year was about forgiveness. And so it's a very generic word, but it's a huge therapy kind of staple, which is, traumatic, catastrophic events. It's really hard to move forward unless you kind of find the forgiveness in your heart. And so I would say for their characters, there's a combination of continuation of old stories and new stories. And all I mean by that is, if I say the word forgiveness, people that watch the first season can see the breadcrumbs of Harrison Ford has an estranged daughter. Alice's father didn't necessarily come through for her in the hardest year of her life. Luke Tenney's character, Sean, still has unresolved issues with his family. There's a patient at the end of the year that I assume is going to have, from the finale, a hard time forgiving herself. And as far as what it means moving forward and what umbrella it takes place under, once you see the first episode of season 2, knowing that it's about forgiveness and whether or not people can find their way through it, the introduction of Brett Goldstein's character kind of has a lot to say about that.
And I seem to remember you saying before sort of season 1 came out that you already had a sort of general sense of the arc for this run of the show. Was there anything that after the first season came out that sort of, in seeing sort of viewer reaction to it, responses, that made you sort of change things as you went into writing season 2?
Yeah, there's two things. I'll tell you. We got very lucky because, look, I've said this 1,000 times. I'm in the business of taking credit for other people's talent, and I'm so grateful for it. I can write a little bit, but I can't do the things that all these people do. And the major changes to the show happened because of the cast. One is Ted McGinley. We always perceived him just as someone that would kind of stroll by and be a comedy assassin with one-liners. And he was like a guest star last year, but the response to him was so big. He's a regular character now. And we had to develop storylines and a backstory and a character for someone that we did not know would be such a big part of the show. So that's number one. And then number two, which is kind of liberating for the writing staff, Harrison Ford, Jason Segel would have been justified to say, we'd love the show to keep being predominantly about us. But they have so not only embraced the ensemble, but everybody was blown away by how the young people, Luke Tenney and Lukita Maxwell, who play Alice and Sean, could hang with these kind of comedic heavy hitters and icons, and so kind of broadening the world into their lives and their stories was not something that we had necessarily intended to do. Sean was kind of a catalyst as a patient the first year, and then this year we're kind of burying ourselves in his life a little bit, but it was earned, and it just means we're trying to lean into what's working.